From the Mayor's office with more stuff online, I'm Rick Moore, and joining us once again is Mayor Carolyn Kirk from Gloucester. And Madam Mayor, a lot of hot topics, but the most recent, of course, you went to Washington, D.C. As we tape this, it's on Thursday, so that was yesterday. When did you get back, and tell us a little about it?
Oh, great. Thanks, Rick. It's great to be back on the More Stuff Online. I headed down this past Monday and was there all day Tuesday for a set of meetings, and then meetings Wednesday morning, and then noontime yesterday was the rally, and got home last night about midnight and was up bright and early this morning, so I'm a little tired.
I can imagine that traveling is difficult no matter what. Give us a thumbnail sketch of what the objective was in going down, and maybe who went down to D.C. from Gloucester, and then maybe a little bit about what happened.
Okay. Well, from the mayor's office, we really had two objectives for the trip. The first one was to participate in the rally. I was one of the speakers. I was so proud to do it. The preparation that I did was enormous, and I did one-on-one interviews with fishermen. I had meetings with 30 fishermen at a time to really hone the message, and I wanted to carry the message that Gloucester fishermen wanted to be carried to Capitol Hill, and so spent a lot of time preparing that message. And the message basically boiled down to the need for flexibility in the regulations, the need for fairness. Our fishermen have done the conservation measures and requests of the last 15 years, and they were promised at that time, if they participated in conservation, that they would be able to fish when the fish started coming back. And a lot of the stocks are rebounding to the highest level seen in generations, yet despite that, they're putting even more restrictive regulations in place. So there's a fairness element and sort of a theme of broken promises. And then the third thing is congressional oversight, is to hold the feet of the fisheries management agencies to the fire in the oversight of the fisheries law as enacted through the regulations. So that was a big objective, and I think the message was heard loud and clear.
By whom now? Who did you talk to, and how did that work out?
There were almost 5,000 fishermen from all over the country, up and down the East Coast, but Gulf Coast was represented, and the West Coast. We had people there from California and Alaska. There were over 20 congressmen and senators who spoke and addressed the crowd, and which was really significant. It was very interesting to hear that our equivalent of a Congressman Tierney or a Senator Brown from Florida or the Carolinas. And the fish are different, but the concerns are the same.
Now, what about progress or movement? How is that monitored? What happens next? Is that up to our local congressional contingent?
You know, this is one of those things that it's so incredibly complicated what's going on in the fisheries. I think of the rally as a kickoff to an effort to gain the legislation that will benefit the fishermen. And there's a bill in the House and a bill in the Senate. So I met with, the other objective out of the mayor's office was to have one-on-one meetings with people in D.C. So, for example, we had a meeting with Congressman Capuano, who is from Somerville, and I saw him in his office, and I asked him to sign on to the fish bill, if you will, and he did. He signed on to that, and so that has to ripple across the House of Representatives and the Senate in order to get some movement on those bills. So those efforts, that kind of lobbying is taking place with a lot of the organizations that represent fishermen, but also now by the fishermen themselves.
Okay. All right, we have just one other thing I want to ask you about, just very briefly, and that is, of course, we've had a tragedy in the community with a local high school student, and there is a forum that's beginning tonight, and I presume that this is the beginning of an educational process or some kind of a process to maybe change things around here.
Yeah, you know, I sort of take my mayor's hat off and I put my parent hat on, and as I became familiar with the facts and the circumstances of the tragedy in Gloucester, I became privy to information from the health department, from the police department, from the schools, and I thought to myself, you know, as a parent, I need to know this. I get to hear about
Right.
it because I'm the
Right.
mayor, but these parents need to know, if you see a child, even if it's not your own, in a hallucinogenic state, what do? You get them to a hospital. I wouldn't necessarily have known that. And so what are the signs of that? How do you know that that's occurring, and what steps to take, and what's the prevalence of this particular drug in our community? So a lot of the questions that people have, we hope to get answered tonight. So we'll have police department, the health department, a physician, a mental health professionals there. We will have the DA's office represented and have a real broad-ranging, get all your questions answered kind of a session. But I think what's going to happen is the discussion will quickly evolve to, it may not be mushrooms per se, but it could be the combination of mushrooms and marijuana and alcohol, and the risky behavior of our youth is really the discussion that we need to take up going forward.
And finally, do you see this as something that will be ongoing? Will there be more of these forums? Because that's an amazing amount of talent that you're putting together there.
Well, and that audience is for the parents. Also, the Gloucester Health Department has what they call the Healthy Gloucester Collaborative. And there's a lot of peer-to-peer work being done that's been ongoing. So teens talking to teens. And they're doing public service announcements, and they have a whole program that has been underway and will continue to be underway. That's the other side of the equation. It's one thing to get to the parents, but you also have to reach the teens. And sometimes cops and teachers and adults in the community are not the best ones to reach the teens through. It's really peer-to-peer.
Right.
So we'll be hearing and seeing a lot more about that in the city.
Well, let's hope it pays off, because it's a problem. It's a bad problem.
Yeah.
All right, Mayor Kirk, we'll talk in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Rick.
That is Gloucester Mayor Carolyn Kirk from the City of Gloucester. From the Mayor's office, I'm Rick Moore, MSO Web Radio.